Well, hey, everybody. By the time you are watching this Devo, it will be April. Maybe you got somebody with a good April Fool's joke or something like that. But you know what April means here in the Northwoods? Snow, of course. We got some of that coming this weekend too. But all that to be said, I really just want to focus on something far more important, probably as important as anything can be, as we head into Holy Week this week or continue in Holy Week. Last Sunday, Rick took us through the part of Matthew 27 where we see the crucifixion of Jesus and what that time was like for him on the cross and some of the interactions that he had with soldiers and guards and religious authorities and so forth. And then we read some really amazing things. And you know me, I get caught in details and wonder. And Rick had a lot to cover this past week, and he covered the most important things, but there's some things in here that just pique my curiosity. For instance, imagine right now, as you're watching this or listening to this Devo, I'm guessing a lot of you, it's daytime. You're not catching this at 8 or 9 at night, I'm getting at, but imagine right now, as you look outside or think about outside, that it goes dark like that. Matthew tells us that as Jesus is on the cross from noon until 3 p.m., the sky, the world around them goes dark. Don't miss that pretty awe-inspiring detail. Again, I don't picture many times, if any, in my life. So I don't know if there was some type of eclipse or God just said it's dark from that time. But it's dark from noon to 3. Jesus is continuing to be on the cross, and the people around him are wondering probably a little bit about what's going on with darkness. And then as Jesus dies, a few really amazing things kick in. First of all, Matthew tells us, and you probably know this, that the curtain is torn in the temple. It is divided. Right at that moment, people in the temple notice that the curtain is torn. And Matthew even gives a description of top to bottom. So if you think about a curtain, you could possibly picture somebody tearing a curtain from the bottom up, I suppose, but not from the top down. This is a big deal that's happening there. A very significant deal in what it represented as far as our access now to God that had been cut off ceremonially by the curtain. We see that now access to God is there, but literally just the fact of the curtain being torn, a thick, maybe as thick as a phone book, remember those, something like that, that was torn. Amazing. But not only that, we see an earthquake happen. We see the rocks torn in two. So not just a short tremor kind of a thing that's happening here. So we go from darkness to the curtain being torn at the temple to earthquake and to rocks being cut down. It's chaos. But a really wild thing in here, the tombs broke open as the rocks were split open in the mountains, so to speak, around Jerusalem. And when those tombs opened, Matthew tells us that the bodies came out. Bodies that they recognized were the holy people of yesteryear. Once Jesus was resurrected, other people got resurrected. It's amazing. I don't even know what to give you in that other than just, wow. Imagine what God is showing, what was happening, how big of a deal this was that Jesus was dead and resurrected. All of these things to show how the world just got turned upside down at that moment in history, a historical moment. And then Matthew gives a logical next thought. The centurion, the one who had seen all this, the one who was watching the tomb and watched all that unravel with Jesus, and maybe was one of those that were mocking him just hours earlier. And when all this happens, his conclusion is, oh my goodness. He had to be the Son of God. Imagine if he was one of those soldiers that had been there mocking him, spitting on him, hitting him, and the sudden reality change. That's the reality change that each human being has to think about when we come to grips with who Jesus actually is, what he has done for us, and what that means to our lives, but to the course of humanity. That's just one small or huge thing to think about this week as we celebrate the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. We hope that you'll join us on Good Friday at 6 p.m. this weekend, on Easter Sunday, for whether it's at 8:30 or 10:15. We're excited to be able to get together and talk through all these things again. What it means that God sent his Son into the world to die, and what his resurrected life means to each and every person. Join us this weekend. It's a miracle to think about what God has done in Jesus. Have a good week.